Okay, I'm Peter, VK3YE, and just thought we'd do an impromptu Ask Me Anything. So if you've got any questions about ham radio, then let me know. I haven't told anyone I'm doing this, so and hello to Andy. I'll might put a thing on the Facebook. It's about just after 6 a.m. here. Just got up, and yep, there's 6 people viewing already, so that's good. And yeah, as far as time, I checked the time. I think it's quite late in the evening in Europe, and United States might be, Canada might be a bit more convenient. So late afternoon there, I think. So yeah, what have I been doing? Not a lot. The odd contact on 2 meter simplex. Okay, we have a question. What is best for an 80 meter from Tim W5TAH? What's best for an 80 meter end-fed half wave, Unan or Ballon? Well, a half wave is unbalanced, so is your transceiver. But the big issue is whether you are matching the impedance. Because a half wave will be high impedance, you'll want to match it to your 50 ohms. You can use some sort of essentially a transformer, a few turns on the transceiver end and a lot of turns on the antenna end, and that gives you a impedance step up. Because the impedance of an end-fed half wave is very high. It's like 4,000 ohms. So if you connected it to a transceiver directly, you'd have a VSWR of like 100 to 1, something really, really high. And there's no way your transceiver will put out its full power into that sort of terrible load. So yeah, definitely need something, definitely need impedance step up. I personally use an L-match antenna coupler, variable capacitor and a coil, and that will also do various bands. And hello to Arnold, 3:15 Central Time in the US. Andy, how long? Oh, hello to M0PCF. Paul and Lezer, Rhode Island. No idea where it is, but good night to you there. CW probably took maybe 6 months. Yeah, no pets. No, I was lucky at home. I was still at school then, and my mother helped me learn CW, so I made a Morse practice set, and we sent Morse, and also they did transmissions on 80 meters. There's the WIA in Western Australia where I was, and and so I was listening on pretty makeshift receivers, but yeah, they had Morse practice sessions that I'd tune in at night, and eventually learnt Morse. And then my first transmitter was CW, so I made contacts with that, so that helped Morse as well. So yeah, that answers your question. Anyway, I'll just put a link on this on Facebook. Okay, experiences with from Paul. HF VHF emergency comms. Great question. No, short answer is no. I've done a lot of portable operating that would be a bit like some emergency communication. Yeah, I've done VHF field days from hilltops, and yeah, but none of it's, and some of it's been, contest field days, that sort of thing. And I've been, often with portable equipment. Right, okay. I'm just typing in on the Facebook page. If you don't subscribe it, hello to Raphael, PU1OWL. Okay, if you are on Facebook, then just subscribe to VK3YE Radio Books. So yeah, I've just put a note. So hopefully there'll be some more people joining. We've got 17, which is good. So yeah, I've also done, as you can see from some of my other videos, I've done portable HF. Some of it's pedestrian mobile. In fact, in the cover picture for this video, it's me on the beach setting up. And I've actually done some videos on emergency communication, but basically because there are some people that get into amateur radio because their main motivation might be MCOM. And I talk about some of the limitations of that. Like, it's not always, it's not quite as easy as dialing up something up. What's the minimum number of radials for portable vertical? Well, the last video I did was when I was pedestrian mobile. I was actually just using a single radial. Now, for some reason, it's not posting on Facebook. I'll try again. Yeah, but as I say, more radials the better. If you have elevated radials, you can probably get away with fewer of them than vertical. If they're buried. Okay, now there's something wrong with Facebook here. Now, they're also, have you done any assistance for bike rides, races, marathons? Yeah, not really. Yeah, I think there is a group here locally called WISEN, Wireless Institute Civil Emergency Network, but never have done anything with it. And okay, right, it's now up on Facebook. But yeah, no, there are groups around radio clubs. If that's if you're interested in that sort of thing, then radio clubs sometimes do it. So okay, 18 people. If you've just turned on, you can. If you're starting in amateur radio, you can ask me questions as well. Have I ever built a QRO version of my pocket-sized L match? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have got something at home. I don't think I've done it in a video, but yeah, basically a big variable capacitor and a bigger coil. That's an L match. So yeah, as far as food goes, anything in front of me I eat. Now, as far as construction projects, I would like to say it's on the go, but I haven't actually done anything for a while. But there's a regenerative receiver in the most recent Sprat, and I've sort of built one. It's very makeshift, but it did actually work surprisingly well for a makeshift receiver. So I'd like to build that in a proper box. The Exidu G106. Well, quite a few people have done reviews. They haven't been necessarily very flattering. And so, yeah, and I'm pretty happy with the FT817 because some of these rigs are sort of built down to a price. I've got the 817 and I'm happy with it. So, yeah, I think that will do me for a while. But, yeah, well, glad that you're impressed with it. Yeah, there's been, some people have found them good, some have not. I think, transmit audio is really, really critical. Also, I think there's been some issues with, the cleanliness of transmissions. Maybe the guy who reviewed it got a lemon. hopefully others are better. A dozen countries in Canada from the UK. Yes, with the Ziju, that's good. It seems to be very small. I think it's only about as small as your hand or something, and I'm not sure. I think it might be. Is it 5 watts, 10 watts? I'll look it up. And does it do 6 meters? G106. Yeah, 2/3 the size of the 817. Oh yeah, here we are, 80 to 10 meters. So yeah, it doesn't do 160. Let's see, 379 euro. Okay, so it's a bit cheaper than it's 5 watts. It's got FM broadcast band. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's got a it looks, the screen looks quite good. I don't know if it's a touch screen. I think it is, but it's got sort of a band spectrum display that could be a nice feature. So yeah, I haven't actually heard one on the air. And hello to I0KQB, Giovanni. So yeah. Yeah, no, the screen does look good, but overall, yeah, the screen's good and a bit useful, but my priorities would be RF, basic RF performance, transmit and receive, far more important. And low current draw on standby, yeah, okay. Well, that could be a benefit because the 817 is like 300, 350 milliamps. I think the Craft, what was it? The KX3, I think that was like 150 milliamps, so quite a bit less. George, KF4ZKU. No, I haven't tried any of the SDX, SDRs. Again, I've heard mixed reviews. So yeah, I'm not very adventurous when it comes to stuff, especially if I've already got an FT817. Even a KX3, it's 10 watts instead of 5 watts, and apparently it's a very good receiver. But really, for me, it's not really compelling for me to shell out the $1,000 plus when I already own the FT817. And for robustness, I think the FT817 is probably the best of the lot. Though having said that, if I didn't own an FT817, I would be tempted with the Ziju thing. Because of its low price, you could have a rig that you could knock around and robust. And whereas with the Craft, they seem to have, not only are they expensive, but they have sort of a lot of holes in them and they're fragile. They just look to me, it's not something I'd be comfortable with taking down to the beach with the wind blowing and the salt water and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think, but a cheap rig, then yeah, maybe that would be all right. I'm living in a caravan and asked the farmer, could you recommend an SWR and antenna tuner? Well, often a lot of the transceivers have an VSWR indicator, and if it does, then that's okay. Antenna tuner, well, I use an L match if you're using an end-fed wire. If you have a wire about 20 meters long, then an L match will match it on most bands. If it doesn't, you can vary the length a little bit. So yeah, an L match is just a coil that you can vary the inductance for and a variable capacitor. So it's just 2 components, and that's all. A lot of information on my website. And if there's a Hamfest nearby, that's probably the best source of variable capacitors. And no point buying one, and unless you can get a secondhand one cheaply. It's very, very simple to build an antenna coupler. suppose with an end-fed antenna in the caravan, you might be a bit, issues with RF in the shack, and getting the antenna in which case, if you have a coax-fed dipole with a balun at the top, that could be okay. Do you find the summer noisier to make QRP contacts? When there's thunderstorms, yeah, but we don't have thunderstorms like people in Florida. They seem to have thunderstorms all the time. In the Gulf, and their bands are very noisy. Ssb filters. Well, the only filters I've made for SSB are ones I've made myself. So you basically get 4 or 5 crystals of 10 megahertz, and you have capacitors, usually around 100 picofarad, and that is a ladder configuration crystal filter. So yeah, that's what you do for that. And you might need to vary the values. You can look at bandpass characteristics with, I think you can do it on a nano VNA. Little AM transmitter for the medium waves. Many years ago, as a kid, I built one. I have built one for 160 meters. That's crystal controlled. Used an 1843 meg crystal. Could I do a video on a ladder crystal filter? I think I already have. I think it's called Anatomy of a Superhet Receiver or something like that. And there might be an SSB transmitted one as well. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I have looked at ladder crystal filters, maybe not in very much detail, but yeah, I think I have demonstrated them in those videos. But yeah, summer noise here, yeah, most of the time it's pretty good. What do I think of super simple receiver circuits? Yeah, well, bit of fun to build. Not always the great performance. They might not be very stable. They might be overloaded with strong signals if you've got strong stations nearby. But yeah, they're always a building block. So if you've got the bits, put it together and see if you can make it better. Yeah, I wouldn't go spending a lot of time on making a really nice box and printed circuit board and all that sort of thing, because those sorts of things will not improve the performance. But unless there's good shielding, that can help. But yeah, no, they're building block. Good point to start off with. And if you've just joined, Q&A, and I'm Peter VK3YE. Okay, had 21 people, so welcome to those who have just joined. And yeah, it's 6:31 in the morning here in Melbourne, and well, you can see, just getting light. Although we do have summertime in about a week's time. This might even be this weekend. Yeah, I think it is. What's the one project you've always wanted to start? I know there's so many. There's ones I have ideas for projects, and then maybe a general coverage HF receiver. Although the project I'm thinking of will be a general coverage HF receiver, but very simple. I sort of have ideas for projects, and often don't carry through them. I have had wanted to build SSB equipment for 2 meters or even double sideband, and I half built it. Suggestions, Chris, for a first QRP radio. Well, FT817 is pretty good if you want to buy something, or FT818, the current model. Gives you a lot of bands, gives you pretty much everything. There's a bit more information on my website, VK3YE.com. Have a look at the QRP page where I go to this in excruciating detail. And I've also got some project ideas for building things. So basically, if you want to build something as a first QRP radio, really needs to be frequency agile. If it's crystal controlled, you can make contacts, but it's much harder than if you can vary the frequency. And I suggest also more than 1 or 2 watts output. There's some really low power radios like the Pixie kits you can buy very cheaply. Okay, if you want construction practice, yeah, but their receivers aren't very good. They're crystal controlled. They're not very much power. So yeah, it's a battle. It's a bit of a trade-off between absolute simplicity and ease of getting contacts with simple QRP rigs. Yeah, hope that answers your question. How could you turn a wireless mouse adapter into an SDR from Egemen Turkin? Sorry, can't help you. No idea. But the cheapest SDR projects are too expensive for Turkey. Rugby school, no idea. Are they? Like you've got the USB dongles, the cheap ones, the RTL 2832. The very cheap ones only cover VHF, so you could build a HF up converter for those that can get you receiving HF. Just trying to think, they're probably about $30 here in Australia, the RTL 2832. So yeah, don't know about how much it is in Turkey. Although there's kits, Hand Summers, QRP Labs, that is actually based in Turkey. So have a look at the QRP Labs site. I don't know if he's got any receiver kits. He specializes in a lot of low power QRP type transceivers and digital mode transmitters and whatever. So yeah, QRP Labs could be worth looking at. So, now, if you are beginning into amateur radio, there's people sometimes ask me how can you listen into radio amateurs? It used to be. It's funny. It's something that used to be cheap and easy. Then it became expensive, and now it's cheap and easy again. Years and years ago, people had shortwave receivers, and radio amateurs were on AM. This is like 1930s, 1950s, maybe even into the 60s, and they could pick up amateurs on a domestic radio that had shortwave. Then when amateurs went to single sideband, it became difficult. There was a bit of fiddling around, but by and large, you couldn't easily receive amateurs. Now it's easy again. You can even go to web SDRs like Kiwi SDR. You can get little USB things that can receive VHF amateurs. But anyway, if you want to know more about that, have a look at the video I put up about 4 days ago called 5 Ways You Can Listen In to Radio Hams. So yeah, there's a fairly recent video on that could be helpful. And hello to Brazil, to Mauricio. Okay, now we have 20 people on. If you've just joined, I'm Peter VK3YE, and just having a little Q&A session. Don't know if we'll go for, it needs to be easy. Put an antenna up. Well, a end-fed half-wave antenna, it's about the easiest antenna you can get, provided you can accommodate the room, provided you could put up a fishing pole. Now, talking about antennas and things, this could be super easy. I was having a look on either eBay or Amazon, but anyway, there you can get, I saw a thing called a disc golf retriever pole. Now, this is like when you look at it, it looks like a telescopic antenna. It's 18 feet, so that means it's like 5 or 6 meters. And so that's over a quarter wavelength on 14 megahertz. But yeah, it's telescopic. It collapses, I don't know, maybe to 40 or 50 centimeters. And they look to be quite strong. I haven't seen one myself, but yeah, it's for recovering disc golf discs. They like frisbee things. I think we've had this similar question before. Yeah, from Sarah. Matching an end-fed half-wave antenna, matching unit, or 1 to 49. Yeah, people have used both. Personally, I use a matching unit. I like the assurance of being able to tune it in exactly and not worrying about the length of the wire. There's no trimming required with a matching unit. The matching unit just looks after all that. So just an L-match antenna or a coil and a capacitor. Both of them are variable. Details on my website, VK3YE.com, on the antenna section. So yeah, very easy to make. And not only will you get one band, you'll get matching. It will work on several bands. It won't be a half wave then, but it will still be quite efficient. So yeah, that's what I commonly use. But yeah, these telescopic disc golf retriever poles, I've seen them on. Their prices seem to be like around $30 US. There are some that are smaller, like they might only be 9 feet, but that 9 or 10, that's a good length for 28 megahertz. So yeah, provided there's good electrical contact between the metal sections, then yeah, that is a potential very simple portable antenna. It's super quick to put up. What rig would you get if the venerable 817 wasn't repairable anymore? The 818, still a current model. Like I've got a Micro BitX, which isn't quite as refined as the 818. In fact, it's really clunky to use on CW. Ssb, it's okay, but it's not a bad rig that you'd take if you're going somewhere where you had to bash it around, especially if you put it in a good box, and it's quite cheap as well. There's the Craft, quite expensive. I haven't kept up with all the Chinese rigs, but I think some of them are okay. Some of them people have had issues. So yeah, I'd spend a lot of time looking at reviews and whatever before making a decision. So yeah, but overall, for now, it's the FT817. And let's have a look at from Arnold Grubb, surface mount parts. Yeah, that's. I was asked the question a little bit before. Yeah, surface mount is something I haven't got into. I should, but I haven't. So yeah, that's another thing in the procrastination department. And hello to George, the 9 meter Haverford pole and fed and with an Anan. Yeah, excellent. Vertical L for 20 and 40. Very good. Yeah, I haven't been on air a lot, except for a couple of days ago when I went pedestrian mobile and had some great contacts on 15 and 20 meters. Weather's warming up. It hasn't. So yeah, I'll be spending more time down at the beach and HF portable, hopefully in the next few months. Okay, if you've just turned on, I'm Peter, VK3YE, and this is a Q&A. If I'm sounding a bit tired, yeah, I've only just got up. Yeah. And if there are no more questions, I might I'll leave it just a few minutes in case there's anything else. Otherwise, we might end it there. It's actually much quicker to do a video like this than to edit anything. I'm a little bit empty. A few months ago, I had a big backlog of videos, and there were videos every few days. I'm now down to the bottom of the barrel, and there's nothing left. So yeah, I'll have to do something about that. And raining in North Wales, yeah. Now, Jay, favorite mode. It's really hard. Like, it's whatever is in front of me at the time. Like, I enjoy CW, enjoy Ssb, enjoy AM. FM can have its moments, but it can fade out a lot on HF. Now, Jay managed a QSO from Galveston, Texas, New Zealand with 5 watts. Lit the fire. Are you willing to set up a schedule? Yeah. I don't know. I'm a bit spontaneous. Like, if it's a nice day and if I feel like it, like, I go out. So yeah. I generally don't. Not into skeds and nets, that sort of thing. Generally speaking, the best time to work VK Australia or use a group. Yeah, no, I don't do nets. Because there's an internet on 20 meters, 14.183. But especially if you're portable QRP, there's so many stations on there that you're just waiting for ages and ages for your time to come around, and you have a very quick impersonal contact. Yeah, it floats some people's boats, but if you're operating portable, you want to have as many contacts as you might only be out for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and you want to make as many contacts as you can, and preferably make them independently of any net control. So yeah, my general thing is when I go out, I tune around, listen for people calling CQ, give them a call. Sometimes they come back to me, sometimes they don't. Only rarely will I call CQ. More on 40 meters than on other bands. That seems to be a good band for getting contacts. 20 meters, it's much less successful to call CQ, especially with QRP. But if you've got like 40 or 50 watts output, then that seems to be a power level that people overseas will hear you really well and will come back to your CQ calls. As far as contacts from Texas to this part of the world, I would say generally, in fact, about this time of day, maybe about 1 or 2 or 3 hours later, on 20 meters, on 14 meg, that would be the best time that you would contact Australia in VK. Thanks to Modder Modders. Glad you like the videos and stuff. The 49er, I haven't. I think that might be a bit like a Pixie, but upgraded. Okay, separate TX and RX crystals. Make a video about how to double the TX power. Yeah, well, a bit hard because I've never tried that kit. There's also a suggestion about 2 transistors. So yeah, maybe that would work. But yeah, more important than doubling the power, in my view, is frequency agility. Frequency agility is king. You'll get more contacts if you are frequency agile than if you double the power. Basically, so because with QRP, the most effective way to make contacts is to tune around and find people, call them on their frequency, either if they're calling CQ or they are finishing up with someone else. And if you're crystal controlled, unless you're very lucky, you can't do it. So yeah, frequency agility is king. And yeah, crystal control is, sometimes you can get lucky, but you're really limiting yourself heavily if you're crystal controlled. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of all the questions. How long have we been going for? 35 minutes nearly. So I think that's long enough, and I'll leave this video in case there's anything you missed. I'll leave this video up on my channel. And as well, check out my books, VK3YE radio books. Yeah, I've used tall crystals on a Pixie. Yeah, you'll be able to get, maybe a couple of kilohertz shift. If you put crystals in parallel, then you could get a little bit more. You're probably better off with a separate crystal oscillator circuit and a buffer that can improve your pulling range even more. And hello to Ham Radio Fun. So thanks, George, and I enjoyed your video on the TS520. Glad that you're able to fix that up. So thanks all for joining, and enjoy the rest of the day.